Good evening, viewers. As always, we are back every fortnight with a special session for the MSME community. This program, as we all know, is meant for startups and MSME community who are starting from scratch and trying to build their business in very uncertain times. But we are in 2022, and we are there's a lot of hope all around. We have the worst years are kind of behind us, and we hope that 2020 is better for us. Myself, Abir Mozumdar from the Idea Factory, and Mr. Tuhin Mukherjee from iSTRATEGIC Consulting jointly bring this program to you every fortnight to discuss various issues that are faced by the MSME community. Today we are discussing a very important topic, and that is customer acquisition. As we all know, a business cannot build without customers, and how difficult it is for a startup or for a small business to get customers on a steady basis. Okay, so, it's not easy for any small business to get customers on a steady basis without putting too much of money in the form of marketing or through relying on various platforms. So it becomes a very expensive proposition for a small business, which initially does not have enough funds to stand on its feet. There are also various platforms that are promising to help businesses through for customer acquisition through but as you all know, most of these platforms do not actually take responsibility of finding customers for you. Ultimately, after a lot of time, the business house realizes that getting customers is its own responsibility, and nobody is going to, all the services that they offer are not helping them to build their own business in a shorter period of time. All said and done, customer acquisition is a very important step in the entire closed looping of a business model of a startup, because without customers there are no revenues, and without revenues there's no organization. So once you start getting revenues, then only you are going to build an organization step by step, brick by brick. That being the backdrop, let us also start with the first basic question as to what is customer acquisition. We all know that customer acquisition means getting a customers on board in the company's list, and that means a certain amount of revenues flowing in. Okay. Now it is easier said than done when you get these customers, and as we have told initially, without a brand name or without customers knowing you previously, it will be very difficult for a customer to try out your services initially. So initially, what businesses do, they have to build their relationships or through network to get customers on board through friends and family, and slowly that the network increases. So basically, the first process of companies to start with customer acquisition is through network, and also through physical and digital presence. In 2022, when we are talking of course, we are back to a certain amount of physical presence also. People are meeting offline, there are some programs happening, so there's a certain amount of physical elements happening. At the same time, the digital is also a way of life. So as we have told in the previous programs, companies are going to evolve into a phygital model where both the digital and the physical will coexist. The physical is important because customers need to have a look and the feel of the product before they make the purchase, and that is possible only through a physical setup. Okay, now physical setup can be a small one. It can be through your home office. It can be through your small office that you have, or small stores, or your tie up with a certain store, and so on. So physical is also an important element of selling a product or a service to the customer. In the same time, the digital model is also available where people are putting up videos. They are setting up their products in Amazon, and so on. So, having said that, there is no thumb rule to say what is the time taken for a customer acquisition. Okay, every business has to go their own journey. Some people do it fast, some people do it better, but basically, it makes a business is better off if the entrepreneur has a certain amount of sales experience beforehand. That's why most entrepreneurs, they succeed well because they come from the sales background. Okay, so uh, that is a bigger element, and that sets the business rolling, and then slowly you can build it up through other people or offshoring. Outsourcing a business, the sales part of it, it's not a very good idea, because in the initial phases, when the business doesn't even when the customer doesn't even know you, getting it outsourced and is not does not give you much leeway to understand the customer. So it's always recommended that you keep the sales part in your own system. This being the setup, I mean, there are various matrices to find out customer satisfaction, customer acquisition. But before that, let me ask a question to Mr. Mukherjee. Mr. Mukherjee, what is a customer mind mapping?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mr. Majumdar. It's very important for us to understand the customer mind mapping, because when you are running a business, you need to understand first. You need to define who is your customer. In many cases, we have seen that even the bigger organization could not define it properly their customer. So you need to first define who is your customer. If you are running a tutorial for the students, as for example, you need to define who is customer, students or their parents. So like that, you need to define your customer first. Now, mind mapping. Mind mapping means that suppose you are a customer. Now we are looking for a today is the Sunday. Today evening means the Sunday evening or night. You want to order a dinner from a restaurant. This is a hypothetical example. Now that what is going on in your mind? You have many options. You can actually cook it in your house. You can order it. You can go to even the restaurant. There are many options. Even you can also order through Zomato, Swiggy. You can directly call up to the restaurant or any star hotel for home delivery. There are lot many options are having, and then you need to choose the menu. Then after choosing the menu, you need to pay. You can pay by cash, could be a COD kind of the thing, or could be also the payment by very digital process or the e-payment that could be there. So the thing is that there are a lot many processes are involved when a customer is engaging with the organization. So that is called typically the customer mind mapping. Means when the need is arising in the mind of the customer, from that point to when he is actually paying it to the means when he is paying the bill, means when the total transaction is being completed. The total process is happening in the mind of the customer even before he or she is purchasing your product or the service. So that is called customer mind mapping. It's very, very important. If you cannot define your customer first, if you cannot define that kind of the cannot do the basically customer mind mapping, probably the thing is that you cannot attract the customer. So you need to step into the shoes that need to think that how the customer is thinking. There's a popular saying in basically in the movies. Probably you have seen the Bollywood movies where is means this popular dialogue that get into the character अर्थ के अंदर घुस जाओ. So that the means the director used to say this thing very popularly. So get into the character and the feel as if that you are actually doing that kind of the stuff. So here is also the organization also need to consider themselves as the customer. They need to map the mind, the how the customer actually thinks. When the need is arising for particular product or the service, from that point to the transaction is being completed. The total thing is that that process needs to be mapped. That is called customer mind mapping or CMA. That has to be very clear, because if there is any kind of a lag, we will be missing the customer. We cannot acquire the customer. So this is very important that without which the organization cannot even get the customer of the food. Because if you are having the offer, if you are having the proper service, or if you are having the proper kind of the process also, it's not enough to get the customer on the food. You need to understand the customer, you need to understand that how the customer is thinking even before the purchasing product and where they could face the difficulty. So every point you need to clear. So that is basically called the customer mapping, mind mapping, and that has to be done. Every organization needs to do that. If you're running a restaurant, so you need to understand that when they are going to order, means the kind of the food stuff from your restaurant and how the things will be done. So if you cannot define this kind of thing, probably you cannot get the customer in your restaurant. In most of the cases, we assume that these things will happen based on our experience or based on some accumulated knowledge, but that actually does not happen, and that is the problem. Because sometimes, in most of the times, we actually take the decision based on our experience or any kind of the consultation that is given or accumulated knowledge, but practically nothing works. So we need to understand the mind of the customer, and that is called the customer mind mapping. It should be very clear, then only we can actually get the customer on the board and satisfy them and satisfy and serve them for longer period of time. So this is for the customer mind mapping. Now, my next question to Mr. Majumdar, why it means customer acquisition is so difficult in the modern times? Because in the modern times there is so much competition. Now it is also equally difficult for every organization to get the customer on the board. So why it is difficult and how the things should be done? So Mr. Majumdar, please throw some light on this.
Right. As we have told before, also, I mean, there are certain points that we have already covered. That customer acquisition is very difficult in today's times, but at the same time, it's slightly easier also because we have found the bypass route of the digital media. We bypass the entire physical investment which we used to do during the pre-COVID time. The businesses used to have a physical presence which was mandatory to build to get customers footfall or getting them into the whole. Look at the amount of investment that the malls have done and the kind of revenues that the mall generate. Even if you look at the people who are going to the mall, I think about more than 70-80% do not make major purchases beyond the food court. Okay, so even after doing so much of physical investment, the malls do not are great revenue or generators of the nation. Okay, cut back to post COVID. I mean, people are going finding out alternative ways to reach out to the customer, which are easier, cheaper, and so these are positive elements of the whole time. At the same time, everybody is doing it. Okay, so it's not that there is nothing unique in your own business with which you will be able to reach out to the customer faster and better. If everybody else is doing it, obviously it becomes easier as well as tough at the same time. And also, there is whenever we sell, I mean, the typical sales pitch of any organization which we have seen is over promise, and later on we find an under delivery platform, which means that whenever they have to sell, they promise the moon to the customer, but after the selling, the customer finds that the product or the service is not half as good that was promised to me before making the payment. So that becomes a issue for customers. So only getting the customer on the board is not very important, but at the same time it is also important for you to service the customer. So the gap between promise versus delivery has to be very, very less. Okay, so that means this doesn't convert into a very long sustainable business wherein you do that. So if you are actually trying to get customers on board, the gap should reduce. Okay, at the same time, what we find is there is also an element that we see that businesses try to make money before they customer experiences the product. I am talking of a pre-payment module, or that you have to digitally, you have to make the full payment and then the customer experiences the product, and that is kind of very uncomfortable for the customer. That is the norm today. For every product or every service that we do, we have to make the payment and then we experience the size of experience the product, even if we are trying for the first time. But for the customer it is not very good. It is always better to go back to the age old model of a little bit of advance and then share the product with them and then make the payment later. This builds a certain amount of trust factor with the customer, and the customer also knows that this guys are, they have good products. This advance payment versus a payment later is a very good model to hold on to, give a very good initial impression to the customer about a good product. Okay, So that is one thing that we have. Similarly, there are very small issues wherein, first of all, as I told you, no, you have to businesses who want to crash time. There are businesses who are building unicorns in 4 years, 5 years. In fact, the entire Baiju, if you study, it has the entire ramp up has happened during the COVID times. That's only in the 2 years. So you have to, for this kind of ramp up, you have to spend a lot of money in marketing, and that initial money for the marketing is essential for people who want to crash time and build business to a very long time. You have a brand ambassador, you have channels, you have put up employee people, so it's a very big mechanism that you're building up. But there are many small businesses that take a lot of time to go to this level, and may not be able to reach the level of Byju's even in their lifetime. So it's always better to stay within your means and then slowly ramp up your services over a period of time. These are some of the thoughts that I have in mind when I'm saying it is difficult, but at the same time, there are methods, options, approaches that are available physically and digitally for businesses to get customers. There are mechanisms. There is a support system being built up. In fact, we are part of a support system, or also we are trying to build up a support system for MSMEs where they can, share their problems and build up a mechanism to get customers quicker, faster, and ramp up their procedures for that. I think these are the very elemental elements of this. And my next question to Mr. Mukherjee is, Mr. Mukherjee, what do you mean by the lifetime value of a customer?
Yes, the lifetime value is very important. This concept, lifetime value or the LTV, because the thing is that when the customer means when the customer receives the total revenue in his life, that is called the lifetime value. How much you are receiving the revenue in your life, that is called the LTV. So means total lifetime value. So the thing is that it is means a company need to understand how much value or how much they contribute in that LTV. If you are actually providing the satisfactory value, or you are adding to the good value to the customer's life, probably you can mobilize the customer for longer period of time. Suppose that it's 100. Say it's a hypothetical, it's 100 the LTV or the lifetime value of a customer. Another thing is that if you are contributing the higher portion to the LTV, is that say if you are contributing 10 and other companies are contributing, someone is contributing 2, 3, 4 like that. If you are contributing more than that, 10 means that you have the more priority in the customer's life. So that is called the LTV, lifetime value. You need to increase that kind of the value means that customer is using your service and service or the product more in comparison with the other organization. That could be different kind of the product or service, or it could be some kind of the competitors products or the service. But the total lifetime value LTV, that is fixed. That is generally fixed for a customer's life. Now you need to increase that value to means increase that value as much as possible. In other words, that you are actually getting more importance that customer's life, or your product or the service is being used more in that customer's life compared to the other competitors. So we need to always we need to always consider that it's a kind of a numerical kind of the consideration, that we need to understand that how much the customer is using some product or service in his life, and what is the LTV or the lifetime value, and how much you are contributing and how you can increase it. If you are able to increase it, that means that you are getting more share in the share of the wallet of the customer. That means that more revenue we are also capturing. In other words, the customer is also using more means product or service compared to the other organization. This is a very important concept. LTV. LTV, that one company or any other organization need to increase the share of the LTV in the customer's life. When they are able to do that, obviously they are getting more important. Their products and services are being used in a higher proportion compared to the other competitors or compared to the other products and services of any organization. So that is called the LTV. We need to actually calculate it. Then after doing that, we need to increase it as much as possible. So it's a very, very important point that every organization needs to understand. Because if you need to survive in the market without adding value, you cannot actually survive for a long time. Forget about thriving. Surviving is not at all possible without adding the value. Because nobody is going to actually pay you or nobody is going to keep you in their life without having proper kind of a value addition. So in that regard, LTV of the lifetime value is very, very important. It's a kind of the managerial and the numerical concept, and that is put together in such a way that we can use it in a proper way and makes our product service more reliable and relevant in the consumer's mind. So that is the point, and that is called the LTV. Now, my next question, Mr. Majumdar, is that how do you actually add value to the consumer lives? So this is a very important point. Without adding the value, you cannot survive. So you need to add the value. So how it could be done, Mr. Majumdar, please carry on with
Right. I think you have already started the discussion on this topic as how to add value, and you cannot build a sustainable business without adding value to your customer, because customer is not going to pay you if he doesn't see value to it. Okay. First of all, any business that you start, it has to actually have to solve a problem of the customer, and and that solving, if you take it up upon yourself to solve that particular problem of the customer, that itself is a good starting point for you to enter into the life of a customer. Okay, so having solved the problem, now if you want a loyalty from the customer, you will have to have products or services that will give him solutions for a longer period of time, not on the first, but over an extended period of time. For example, if you're since we have taken up the case of education today, by Jews, it has to have a sustainable model through which it is going to serve the education of the customer over 6 months or 1 year or whatever, so that you get a loyal customer at the end of the day. At the same time, we also have to remember that if your customer grows, your business will grow. Okay, so it's important to even understand the business, and this is especially important perhaps for the B2B customer, because B2B customers are they are under tremendous pressure to get customers on their own. And if we solve certain problem of our customer, which enables them to get customers from there, that helps us build a strong foothold in the life of the customer. So basically, if our customer grows, we grow. But in that case, we have to understand the business of the customer and what are the pain points. So we have to go more into detail. So while we start with maybe solving one problem of the customer, if you understand the customer better, you will be able to give multiple solutions to the customer, and also your product will improve over time. The product that you're offering today may differ from the maybe you may offer a better version 6 months down the line or 1 year down the line, and that might help the customer get the bottlenecks of its business, and that might help him to grow. So understanding a business's customer's business and helping him grow is a very key element to get loyal customers over time. And if you want a sustainable customer who is going to depend on you for a longer period of time, it is important for you to solve that problem. That is why there are many businesses that build today. It's very important to build a relationship with the customer and to go beyond the transaction. Whenever you go beyond the transaction, you will be able to understand the situation of the customer, and maybe you can help him out through the whole process. In fact, relationship building is so important today. Even for example, if we are talking of our case, post COVID, we are in active talks with people with whom we have built relationships in the COVID times. That means during 2020 and 21, which we have built up the relationship with them. We are in active talks with them to get certain assignments with them for this very long period of time. Customer has observed you, seen your services, seen your product, and then only they are willing to talk to you for a deal. Okay, so that, like that, it's not a quick fix situation wherein your customer is going to just buy your product and pay you, which is of course possible if you have a product which is a FMCG or a small value product, but this is not going to be a sustainable model. So basically, if you want to have a sustainable model, you will have to build relationships with the customer. This is some point that we want to tell you. Also, adding value to customer also means that you bring them. I remember my timing during the telecom days, wherein we brought in. We had programs in the telecom where customers used to come, and that evening or a Sunday evening, that enjoyment or an entertainment program that we used to have with the customers, that itself set the bonding with the customers so well that all the problems that they had, we had a much more leeway. They had a better understanding of it because of the relationship that we were building with them. Had we not done those programs or physical associations with them, the customer would just have seen the defects in your service and would have just churned out of your system. So, if you want to build a loyal customer base, you have to be in direct touch with them, do offer certain loyalty programs to them, do something interesting and exciting to hold on to your customer, and your customer is not going to leave you. Today, you have the advantage of doing certain programs even digitally, bypassing the physical, expenses part of it. And that also is good enough for you to hold on to your customer if you do some programs on Saturday. And these are small things. Of course, there are many more that you can do. Also, understand from the customer's point of view. I remember, and I have spoken to many people in various forums, like the IVR mechanism which is going on when customers call you up, and the IVR program that puts you onto to the automated mode of 1 2 3 4 5, and please put in your program. That's a great put off for a customer. It would have been really nice for a customer to talk to someone directly who will understand the problem and then put you up into the right person. So, the good old days of a telephone operator in the mobile telephony is also a good approach of, having a one-to-one personal bond and not the automated. I think the automation has to be there at the back end. The interface with the customer has to be with the person live, physically or digitally, and that would also build a bond with the organization and the customer, and that would also help you establish a bond with them. These are the small points that I have in front of me. uh, my next question to Mr. Mukherjee is, Mr. Mukherjee, how do you define the journey of a customer with a in your system, in a company
Yeah,
system?
it's very important point. Customer journey. Earlier I told about the customer mind mapping. Now this is the customer journey. Customer journey means that how the customer is starting with your organization and how is their ending. Means ending means that when they are purchasing any kind of the product and the service. So this is a total kind, means total process or thing is that this means total process is for the customer journey. You need to define every step of the customer journey, because if there is any kind of the problem, any kind of the means struggle or any kind of the awkward situation, you will lose the customer. It has to be very smooth. It has to be the frictionless. So the customer journey, when the customer is actually interacting with you, is when the customer is interacting with any kind of the interface or with the of the organization, from that point when he is receiving the goods or the service and paying for that, the total process for the customer journey. And you need to break it down in multiple parts, because the customer journey combines many parts while you need to actually build many elements, and those elements should interact seamlessly with each other, and that is how you can make the frictionless organization. So this is a very important point. If the customer journey is not frictionless, it is not. It is if there is any kind of a pain, probably you cannot mobilize the customer, or you cannot even get the next order from the customer. So your organization needs to be frictionless organization, and you need to define the customer journey. You need to break it down to the multiple elements, and all the elements should interact with each other in a seamless way, so that customer receives any kind of the product and service without any hassle, without having a smallest portion of the thing. This is a very important point today, because today it means the customer is not the king and queen. Customer is more than something the king and queen, and they are basically the customer, and they deserve to receive any kind of the product or service for the value, for the for the means receive any kind of the product and service that they deserve, and they should actually get that kind of the value. without having any kind of a problem and the hassle. It's a kind of the situation right now. The market is over competitive. So customer is the customer and they have the full significance and the full right to receive the right quality of the product and the service with the right kind of the value proposition. You need to keep into the point and you need to design the customer journey in such a way the customer should not be disturbed in the smallest portion in this kind of the journey. So this is for the customer journey. We need to be very clear with that. So these are the basic components that are the elements that we discussed today in a short while. So customer acquisition is basically very important and is also difficult and it's also kind of a topic that many people, many organizations give their own individual explanation. But what we try to cover is a generalistic view how to acquire the customer and mobilize them in your organization. So these are small effort. In future also will be coming out various other kind of the, programs regarding the customer acquisition or the customer value proposition. Thanks, Mr. Majumdar, for being with us today and discuss and giving his valuable feedback. Now today we have another kind of the announcement. The announcement is that from the means we are going to start kind of the program that will be basically in the Zoom, and we will also give the link here. The people who are actually finding value, they can fill up the form, and they can come in our program. We'll be conducting the program in the Zoom. And basically, this kind of the program it will not be directly open. So we'll actually conducting the sessions. Basically, it's a kind of a master class that we will be doing also, and the link will be given here in a form in the in Google form. So the interested people also can fill up the form. And later on will come out also our program, which is a paid program, but we'll be charging very competitive rate because I can assure that it will not be very expensive or higher than the market rate, but that will also be informed in due course of the time. But right now we are informing that we will be conducting some kind of a master class in the Zoom and the link will be given. The interested people can fill up the Google form and they are welcome to join our Zoom session. Thanks a lot. Mr. Majumdar, do you have anything to share?
No, thank you very much. I think we have made it very clear. We are doing a more detailed program, and this is for MSME, clients who are finding value with the kind of videos that we are doing. But here we will go more deeper into the topics that we have, and also we are open to having a direct contact with these people to understand their specific problems and specific ways of addressing these. We are also building a network, so that way the people will be exposed to a lot of ideas and cross section of people around it, and that might help them build their business a bit more. As today's topic, as we said, it's very contextual. Customer acquisition is the key, and we are taking our small steps to help businesses to build an ecosystem and to discuss problems, add value. So overall, it's a interesting journey that we are opening up with the MSME clients. I think that's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thanks.